Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Elizabeth and Elton Brewington. Elizabeth Clare. Some of you say, why does she have two names? Well, I was born with two names, actually three. And so I'm Elizabeth Clare Brewington, and this is Elton Brewington. We are your hosts and producers of the Discover Brightside Video Network. And today we are recording Empower Global. You can see all the sessions on our website at discoverbrightside.com/global. And today I'm delighted in the studio to introduce you to Veronica Broomes. And Dr. Veronica, welcome, welcome, welcome. She's doing some amazing work with sports. And so listen in and tell us what you think. Write us a comment, share the video, and get more information about she's in the UK. And so welcome.
Thank you ever so much, Elizabeth Clear. I'm delighted to be here with you and your husband Elton, as well as the other guests who will be part of today's recording and program. So thank you very much for the invitation to be part of it and to talk a little bit about what I do. And you said sports, and people who know me will be thinking, we don't think of Veronica or Dr. Broomes as associated with sports, but I do have a few hats that I wear. So I am based in the UK. My PhD has actually been in science, and so plant science, and that is linked to one of my businesses. And it's a business that provides help, guidance, capacity building. And we have an annual online event to help other businesses to integrate sustainability, which is about looking at the environmental considerations, the social, the people considerations, and to ensure that there's an economic angle, that it makes business sense when you're looking through the environmental or sustainability lens. And increasingly, there's a governance piece, especially for people who linked with the financial services. So that gives you an insight into part of what I do. But the link with sports is actually because of the other business that I manage, and the business that was founded in 2015, but in fact, we started running and managing service accommodation as part of the hospitality sector in 2017. And this has been primarily in one of the cities in the north of England, in the United Kingdom, and it's a city that is called Sheffield, known many decades previously for industry, especially steel and cutlery. But now Sheffield is described as the outdoor city. And in our accommodation, as well as the other service accommodation providers that we work in partnership with, we host many sporting events or guests who are coming to sporting events in Sheffield. So, for example, indoor sports would be snooker, where there's the annual event, the annual competition, the snooker championships. There is swimming, so the English swimming championships are held in Sheffield at the International Sports Venue, which is less than 15 minutes walk from one of the or some of the properties that we manage. We also have had people who've traveled to Sheffield for ice skating or figure skating. There is football, and a few years ago, Sheffield was one of the venues that hosted the European female football championship. So the venues were across the UK, and Sheffield was one of those venues. And I remember that we had a guest, a family who traveled from Norway to be present for the event. And the reason they booked quite early was because they had a teenage daughter, and this was just something that she was looking forward to being able to see the women footballers as part of the Euro Championships. Sheffield is a hilly city, but it's also known for mountain biking and cycling. And again, I remember being surprised because although I host a podcast that is called Sheffield's Hidden Gems, I hadn't as yet discovered that a hidden gem in Sheffield was the fact that there are lots of opportunities for mountain biking as well as cycling. And we had a group of people who traveled from mainland Europe to actually spend a 2 week holiday doing exactly that. So they came with their bikes and they were all ready to go. Now I'll pause here, Elizabeth Clare, because I think you want to say something, but hopefully that gives an insight into some of what I do and how my business supports people in the sports area. And I'd be happy to expand in due course about how we're looking to grow that side in terms of being able to provide group bookings for people who are looking to travel not only to Sheffield in the north of England, but other cities and towns in the north of England, as well as further south, London and environs. And I do confess to being an ex-Londoner, having lived there for well over a decade.
Wow. I happen to live in London, in Chelsea, the very posh part of.
It is. So there's the north and south of the River Divide. I lived
Yeah.
in southeast London, in the London borough of Lewisham, which is next door to the Royal Borough of Greenwich. So I
Yeah.
know that area pretty well. And I do know central London quite well.
So I have a quick question. So we
Please.
are in the US. So do you want schools or youth groups to bring groups to you, or how does it work? How can
It
people help you?
varies. Yes. So
Yes.
that's a brilliant question. It varies. Because we manage properties or accommodation that is fully furnished, fully self-catering, it's useful or is relevant for people who don't want to stay in a hotel for 2, 3 weeks or even
Yes.
longer. So they want to be able to be in their own space, to have the comfort of accommodation or somewhere that they can not have to sleep and eat in the same space, in the same room as you'll do in a hotel. And so that's why the model of service accommodation is perfect. Now, in
Wow.
the case of individuals or families who are booking, they can book direct with us, or many would use the online travel agents. But in terms of groups, rather than having the commissions paid to those large organizations, they can actually work directly with a business such as mine. So Excel City Apartments is the brand that we operate under for our accommodation that is through the company, the registered limited company, which is Excel Property Partners. And so you have a request, or any of your clients have a request. Tell us how many people, the dates, their preference for sharing rooms, or their preference for sharing houses or apartments. And we will then, if we don't have the direct inventory, we will work through our network to find those types of accommodation and be able to quote and to be able to guarantee that the properties, the accommodation will be available for the requested dates. I should also mention that whilst I was speaking about the types of sport, the types of guests that we've had coming for sporting events, and I should say we've also had the sports people as well from time to time who would stay. And we only discover that when someone says, oh, they're the manager for whoever is part of the British team for whatever the event is, or as a surprise, there was someone who stayed with us many years ago. And the last Olympics, when I heard the name, I thought that sounded familiar. And then we discovered that the person had actually stayed in one of our apartments previously. So in terms of I mentioned sports, but I should also say theater professionals are also people who we have as guests. So in fact, we've had at different times. We do have theater professionals who stay with us, and this has been the case for many years. So provide the request as to how many people are traveling, the type of accommodation they're looking for, the dates, and it means that we will then be able to provide the quote and to tell you which properties or where those properties will be.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Very amazing. What's your website? How do people reach you?
So we have a website which is Excel City Apartments. So Excel is in excellence. So it's Excel with an E. So EXCEL City, because we're based in a city and most of the accommodation and the partners that we work with are for places in the city and environs. So they're not rural areas. So hence the use of city in the name and apartments in the plural. and it's a .com. So excelcityapartments.com. There is a contact form, so that site lists 2 or 3 properties or examples or photos from 2 or 3. But once you complete the contact us form, it means you put exactly what you're looking for, and we'd be able to respond to that usually within 48 hours. It can be as early as within 24 hours, but allowing for longer times at weekends, it means that a response is sent within a relatively short period of time. And then payments can be made directly online. If it's by card, it means that we provide information as to how that is done. We provide invoices. So if it's an organization that is booking for a group of people and they need to have an invoice in a business name rather than a personal name, it means that we will provide that as well.
Very nice.
Very good.
I like it.
I
But
have
we
a
got it.
question.
Yeah.
In terms of your provisions, like we have about 25 to 30 members of the United States Tennis Association coming to Wimbledon. And
Oh, wow.
is that a provision? I see my friend Alan over there
Yes.
from Birmingham.
Wimbledon is London, and Wimbledon is usually associated with tennis because that's where you
Yeah.
have tennis happening. Now,
Uh,
I'd say London is a bit different in the sense that London has the City of London, which is central London, the square mile, and it has 32 surrounding boroughs. Wimbledon is one of those. And I would say because of prices, and it depends on the time of the year, maybe the accommodation would not be in Wimbledon. It may be in a neighboring borough. But what's important with London, especially when you have group travel, is to ensure that the locations are conveniently placed in respect of public transport, because London does have a brilliant and excellent public transport network. Some people may know it as the tube, but it's in essence underground trains that will quickly move from one point to the next. But if you don't want to be on the ground most of the time, there are lots of buses that are also available in London. So London would have many double-decker buses. So people can then use the double-decker buses or the electrically powered buses, which are often the single-decker buses. And so it
So
means that
they could stay
there's
with you,
there's a
and
choice.
so they
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
so they could stay with you, and then they could take the public transportation to the Wilmington games.
Yes, so stay with the accommodation that we will broker, that we
Yes.
will offer, and
Yes.
it means that they can then use the public transport. And we would tend to offer guidance, so we send out lengthy check-in messages. So for example, we'll say to guests where they can park, nearest parking areas. And in the case of London, it would be information which tells you where's the nearest tube station. In Sheffield, for example, you can buy a travel card, meaning that if you're staying for a week or a month, you can then buy a card, or you can buy a form of payment that you can use to tap in and pay for the entire period, which makes it cost effective. In London, it's called the Oyster card. So it means that you can load that card with the zones. London has zones, so zones
Yeah.
1 to 6 or whatever. Zone 1 is central London. But if you're going beyond outside of that, you can buy the card that will cover you for the additional areas or the additional zones. And if you go outside of those zones, it's okay as well, because you can then buy a separate ticket to get you there. But if you prefer not to use public transport in the sense of the trains, above and below ground trains, as well as, or the buses, you can choose to use taxis, or you can use Uber, or you can rent cars. So there's lots of choice, not only in London, but in other parts of the country in respect of how you travel.
Do you provide masseuse services?
We don't directly, but we work in partnership with others. So if someone requests that type of service, it means that we'd look for local providers or providers closest to the locations. And because, especially through our podcast, we look to raise awareness of local businesses, charities, and social enterprises, it means that that is something that we can tap into the network to find out who's available. I should also say that as a business, we are linked with chambers of commerce or people who parts of chambers of commerce. And I myself am a member of the Federation of Small Businesses, which is an umbrella organization in the UK for small and medium enterprises, whether you're a sole trader or self-employed, or you run a company with employees up to 250.
Is
Wow.
there a certification or registration of service capacity for masseuses in the UK?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please, Elton?
Is there a registration or certification of service capacity for masseuses in the UK?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Because
Well,
I'd imagine, I would say that offhand, it seems as if it's something that has to be registered or licensed, but
Sure.
then there will be a professional body that covers that. But I
Right.
don't know enough about that. But I'll make a note, a
yeah.
mental note,
Mhm.
to be able to find that information.
Sure, sure.
Dr. Broome, I have to bring Della on because she has to leave, and we'll bring you back if you can stay a little longer for questions. And Helen,
Just,
do we have
okay.
some time with you today? Can we get Della first and get you next?
Sure, no
Okay,
problem.
well, thanks ever so much for the opportunity to
Thank
speak
you,
here.
thank you, thank you.
Yes.
You're
And
very welcome. I do have another appointment, so just in case I'm unable to answer the questions this time around, I'd love to return to be able to do so for your audience.
we would love that.
Yes, you
And
will.
we will make sure everybody, audience, do you hear that? Write us a comment, write us a question so that we can then send it to Veronica, and we will try to expedite you with a response and how to reach her, how to book travel with her, and how to stay with her. So thank you for being such a hospitable welcome. And it's such a great thing to have UK welcome us and India to their countries on our Empower Global. So everybody in America and everyone who's watching this, get ready, get ready. It's time to travel. And of course, if you need a travel agent, I am available as well. So you've got a lot of support. Thank you for watching us.